shut down my laptop.
Hello, health seekers. Here we are for another live episode with our good friends Heather, Kiera, and Joan. We're here today to talk about the fantastic event up and coming in October, the Keto Brain Health number 2. A nice ring to that. Keto Brain Health number 2. Guys, welcome back on board.
Thank you. Good to see you, Richard. Good to see Kiera and Joan.
No problem at all. Some tech issues on Joan's side there. Have we sorted that out, Joan?
Can you hear me?
Yes. I think we have. If I remove that one, there we are. I think that should be good. Fantastic. So, guys, where do you want to lead us today, Heather? So we've got two of the incredible speakers lined up. So we've got Joan and Kiera. Do you want to do the intro? And we can get into maybe a little bit about what they're going to be discussing in the Keto Brain Health and just pile more reasons on why everybody should be booking now to save disappointment.
So I will let both Joan and Kiera introduce themselves, but the reason I chose Joan and Kiera is because a lot of people that are on the ketogenic or trying to get sugar-free, etc., don't realize there's a lot more to it if you have addictions tendencies. And there's this thing in the ketogenic space, in the carnivore space, in the low-carb space, where everyone can be a moderator. And unfortunately, when you have addictive tendencies, you can't be a moderator. You have to be more of an abstainer from certain foods. And Kiera knows very well about this, as do I. And Kiera has worked alongside Joan and done Joan's training. So Kiera is going to be speaking on the inspirational side of how she's come through and where she's at today. And Joan is going to speak about the research she's done and really explain to people that this thing of you can be an alcoholic and you have to completely abstain from food, or alcohol, but you can have a processed food addiction and be told you can comfortably moderate. So that's the kind of stuff we are hoping to see over the weekend to help people understand that it's not as simple as just give up the carbohydrates and you'll have no addictive tendencies on any other way of eating. So I'll let Joan introduce herself. Joan, lovely to see you.
Joan, can you hear us? You there, Joan? Or is she frozen? No.
No, not frozen.
Kiera, you jump in and we'll see if we can sort the tech issues out on Joan's end. So you've learned and studied under Joan, is that right?
Yeah, I'm still training with Joan, and I'm also training with Bitten Johnson, who'll also be speaking at Keto Brain Health under the topic of addiction. Because I mean, I was 19 stone by the time I was 19 years old, so there was something going on for me, and find it like I tried carnivore and I was rolling it, but I just couldn't stick to it. I kept falling off the wagon and things kept getting worse and I kept gaining more and more weight. And even though I just knew how healing it could be and how beneficial it could be.
Thanks, Heather, and thanks, Rich. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Fantastic.
Can you hear us now, Joan?
There's a delay there, isn't there?
Definitely.
Big delay, I think, there, Joan. Kiera, do you want to carry on a sec?
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to stumble across one of Kelly Hogan's videos on, and she'd done Joan Ifland's training, and that changed everything for me. Like it was transformative. I immediately joined like Joan Ifland's group and started watching her videos and learning about her work, and that just turned everything around and meant that I could finally stick to the food plan that I knew was so healing and that could help me. It was just tremendous, the difference it made, learning that I have those addictive tendencies. I mean, my mother was an alcoholic, so possibly that's part of it or whatever, but it just meant that
I can hear you.
We can hear.
Go on, Kiera.
Able just to give myself permission to recognize that I just couldn't moderate and that I was better off just sticking to it. And I think the biggest change for me was finding out from Joan Ifland that how important mirror neurons were. Like your tribe is your vibe, and how important it was to like join groups of other people and go to events with other people who were eating clean food. That was the biggest thing for me, and the biggest switch over, joining Joan's addiction group and coming to events like the Carnivore Conference and the Keto Brain Health, and meeting other people and letting my brain know that my tribe eats this way, and that made a huge difference. Yeah.
100%. And I can attest that personally. I think it's, I think anyone who can afford it and has access to sugar is addicted to sugar. I'm still a sugar addict. Many, many years into my journey, I'm still a self-confessed sugar addict. And I think it's, you hit the nail on the head during your talk last year, Heather, in regards to the cubes of chocolate. I'm very much not a moderator. I can't moderate. It's if the walls come down for me, they come down crashing, and I will literally raid every cupboard in the kitchen, in the house. Now, there are techniques that I use with my clients. For example, not everybody wants to live a keto low carb journey, and sometimes we need to share the house with other family members who are consuming these compounds which we're trying to avoid. So I designate a cupboard for these family members, and this is where, like, my little girl, against my wishes, obviously I'd wish that my little girl was full ketogenic, if not carnivore, but still the real world creeps in. So there's a cupboard which contains the things that I don't want to consume, that is just for everybody else, but it's not my cupboard. And I tell myself that cupboard is not mine. And I do the same with the shelf in the fridge. That cupboard is not mine. That is not my place to go. And it works. You plant that seed and it works. And I can do that, and I can hold that that mentality for a very, very long time, until if I have the slightest bit of sugar, slightest bit of chocolate or ice cream, once I start to fuel those cravings, I am not only in that cupboard, but I will eat, and I'm not kidding, everything within that cupboard, and I will feel physically sick because and then I'll feel really guilty. And going back many years, and not many people know this about my journey, but I was bulimic because I was so clinically obese and I loved my food, addicted to sugar. I would consume and raid the cupboards with all of these things. I would make myself sick, but then I would convince myself that I could do it all again, because, well, it's no longer in, and I would do it all again, and the process would continue. So I was in that state of suffering with bulimia for many years, and it was all driven by sugar addiction. So I'm the same as you, very much. I need to be an abstainer. There are people out there, I believe, who can consume and take these swaps, which is what I do as a business, obviously, Keto Pro. But I think if one can be without, then that even better. If one can be without any of these supplements and these swaps to negate the negative effects, then even better. But it is very much a journey, isn't it? Sugar addiction is a real thing, in my opinion. And this is something that I presented on at the Ancestral Health recently. It's more addictive than cocaine and heroin. And we know this through clinical trials and research papers. The way that it affects our neurotransmitters, and it has the effect on dopamine and serotonin, and it knocks the glutamate and GABA ratio out of balance, increases glutamate excitotoxicity, and we can get into all of this if Joan wants to get into some of the science behind it. But sugar is a drug, and it's more addictive than cocaine and heroin, in my opinion. Joan, are you online?
I'm here, but I don't think you can hear me.
Yes, we can. You're there.
Oh, yeah. And do I
Joan,
still sound like Alvin? No.
No, you no longer you no longer sound like Alvin or any other chipmunk for that matter. Joan, welcome on board.
Rich, thank you so much. Everything you're saying is resonating. I'm admiring what we call your cue management skills. Cue management is cues are where relapses start, and it's any kind of a signal, a memory, a thought, food stimulation, food availability, an associative cue, like somebody that you used to eat processed food with, can trigger cravings. So step one is you get the cueing, the triggering. Step 2 is you get the cravings. Cravings are so fierce that they shut down the frontal lobe and they grab hold of our behavior centers. And I want everybody listening to know that this is not your fault. This is a strategy that was deliberately designed by the tobacco industry in the mid-1980s when they bought Kraft, Nabisco, and General Foods in 3 short years, like that. And all you have to do is ask yourself, why would an addiction-based company, like a cigarette company, why would they go into processed foods? And you just see it immediately. This is a business-generated epidemic, just like the epidemic of lung cancer was business-generated. And it's not your fault. It's not your fault. There are lots of things we now know that we can do for it. And it does take a lot of skill building. What Kiera is talking about in our programs is skill building so that you can block out the manipulation of the processed food. I call it the tobacco food industry. Yeah, but it's not your fault. It's not your
100%.
fault. It's this hard.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's as we said when we came on the call, anyone who can afford it and has access to sugar and processed foods is addicted to them. And as you say, sugar blocks the prefrontal cortex, and it basically inhibits our ability to make sensible decisions. Each time that we reach for the sugar, we increase things like dopamine and serotonin. But every time we downregulate that receptor, which basically means that next time we need more, and we need it more often. And we're in this society where every time it's more, and now it's more often because that effect becomes less. Every time downregulating and further downregulating these receptors, making it harder to break that addiction. It's interesting that if we look at the neurotransmitter production, we can, once that production is a lot more efficient once we remove the sugar and the processed foods, isn't it? Tryptophan, tyrosine, phenylalanine, and the associated cofactors allow us to create our neurotransmitters, and all of these are found within, real foods, animal proteins and natural fats, and the cofactors, come along with them. But every time we consume these processed foods, things like the lectins and the phytates and the other anti-nutrients would then block the absorption of things like zinc, iron, and magnesium by as much as 100%. And if 95, it's crazy.
It's a mess. It's just a mess. Processed foods are so much more destructive than cigarettes. They're really more destructive than any other addictive substance. And I know people think, oh, it's not worse than heroin. Yeah, it actually is. It's harder to give up than heroin because it's everywhere, because we're constantly subjected to craving stimulation, because it starts in utero and it never lets up. Like a crack baby at least gets to withdraw from crack, but a sugar-addicted baby does not. Mom's eating sugar, it's coming through the breast milk, and there's sugar in the formula. Rich, I want to swing back around, if it's okay, to something you said, that if you have access to sugar and enough money to buy it, you will be addicted. It's sugar and flour and gluten and
100%.
excessive salt and dairy and fats and caffeine and food additives. And that's another one of the reasons why this is such a hard addiction to overcome. It's because it's dopamine and serotonin and opioids and cannabinoids. So you've got all of the major pleasure pathways hyper flooding the brain with cravings. But the reason why I want to swing back to this is because I think the more people understand about what was done to them by these industries and where they stand today, the more likely they are to seek out the right level of support. So if the more criteria, cravings criteria, addiction criteria one meets, the higher the level of support, which means the more hours of access, the easier the access, the higher the skill building. And so if you like, I can run down the 11 criteria for addictions. If somebody meets 6 or more, and this is the key point, if somebody meets 6 or more, the tobacco food industry has given them a severe addiction. And if they're struggling and they're lapsing and they're blaming themselves, it's just because they're not in a program with enough, what we call surround support. Do you think your audience would like that?
100%, Joan. Let's get into
Right.
that. And just to reinforce, I mean, this is exactly the type of thing that you're going to be discussing and teaching at the Keto Brain Health.
Yes, sir.
In detail, so I think
Yeah.
if anybody's listening and they are interested in attending, there is a link below in the description, and I'll pop a link in the comments while you're going into these 11 steps now. Fantastic.
Thank you. All right, these are 11 criteria, and I validated these criteria in my doctoral dissertation. I have one of 2 doctorates in the world in addictive nutrition, and Kathleen Day Maison has the other one. And the school that taught us is not offering the degree anymore. So what I did in my doctoral dissertation is I took the criteria for alcoholism, which Kiera was just talking about. It's the only other caloric addictive substance out there. It's very similar to processed food addiction. So there are 11 criteria, and what I was able to show is that they exist and in processed food behaviors. And so we validated those criteria as a measurement of processed food addiction. So number 1 is unintended use. You have a plan to eat so much and you eat more. You're going to go on a diet, but by 10 o'clock you're in front of the vending machine. Or today I'm going to eat clean and you can't. That's unintended use. Number 2, failure to cut back. So let's just do some numbers. Now, I apologize. These are US numbers, but unintended use. Over 80% of the country is now overweight, obese, or severely obese. Nobody intends to gain weight. So it's an indication that over 80% of Americans meet criteria number 1. Criteria number 2, failure to cut back. We have good new research showing that only 1% of people after a few years of weight loss are satisfied with their weight loss. They've already started to regain. So now, over 80% of Americans have met 2 criteria. Number 3 is thoughts. It's spending a lot of time, and not just going and getting and recovering, but also thinking about it. And we do know that most people are spending a lot of time. They think they're spending a lot of time on food. Number 4 is cravings. We know cravings correlate with BMI. So we're back to over 80% of the US meeting now 3 criteria. Number 4 is failure to fulfill roles. We know that people with high BMIs don't make as much money as people with lower BMIs. So now we've met 4. Number 5 is relationship problems. Again, really strong research that people who are eating a lot of processed foods are also not able to participate in their relationships. Number 6 is activities given up. Good evidence for that. And then you get into hazardous use. People think, oh, drunk driving, that doesn't exist in processed foods. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. We know processed foods are mood altering and people are eating and driving. It's the second most common activity after cell phone use while driving. And then you have tolerance, what you were talking about, the downregulation of the craving pathways. Across the whole US population, there is an increase in the percentage of processed foods being consumed. In the 80s, it was 50-some%. Now it's 73%. So you have tolerance across the whole population. I think now we're up to 5. We're up to number 10 is use in spite of knowledge of consequences. And 93% of Americans have a diet-related diagnosis: high triglycerides, high blood pressure, high blood glucose, or high fat tissue, 93%. So, and then the last one is a withdrawal syndrome. And we have a great new study showing that how do you know that you're in withdrawal? You're eating and you're not hungry. you're eating in spite of not being hungry. And we have a good study showing that virtually 100% of obese people in a 2-week period had an episode of eating when not hungry. Now you see the problem. Over 80% of Americans are suffering from severe. So a once-a-week meeting with a therapist is not enough. And for some people, a once a day. The right treatment match for severe addiction has typically, historically, been residential treatment. And that is the finding from writing the textbook that really sent me into developing the structure of the program that we have now, which is it's available 15 hours a day, every day, 365 days a year, around the clock, because people are addicted around the world. The tobacco industry used all of its tobacco distribution channels to push the processed foods through. And that's why obesity spread around the world in the blink of an eye, which was about 20 years. So around the world, around the clock, in the middle of the night, we need to be able to easily access. And this programming that we offer is over Zoom. So now anybody in the world, anybody who can get to an internet access can get what we call surround support. It's very specifically aimed at protecting us against surround marketing, and that's a thing. So thank you, Rich. Thanks for letting me share that.
Fantastic. And look, I think there's a lot more to come from that, isn't it, at the event, which I'm super excited. I can't wait. I mean, last year was absolutely incredible. I think this year is going to be equally as good, if not better. So certainly one not to be missed. Is there anything that you can say to the listeners, Joan, that is that would entice them to come and meet you in person? Are you going to be available to chat?
I will be available every day of the conference. I'm giving talks, but I'm also offering anyone who attends the conference, who buys a ticket, I will find a place in my schedule to do a one-on-one with you.
Wow.
I'd be so moved that you are motivated to come to this conference. I want to meet you in person. It's my first European conference. And I also want to help you. So if you come, if you buy a ticket and you don't come, I will still book a one-on-one with you. I'm here for you.
Well, that's an offer you can't refuse, isn't it? So
and we're looking at gifting 10 of those to people on a draw on the actual weekend, so that we specifically have a number that caps. So Joan has up to 10 people she has said she would love to help out one-to-one. So if that's something you're interested and you do come to the event, when the draw goes out, that will be one of the prizes.
Fantastic. Brilliant
and
stuff.
I'll talk to you there.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
you can see you in person.
Yeah.
It just keeps getting better and better. Kiera, so you've been studying under Joan. What has it meant for you? What have you learned during your time under study?
Yeah, it's like counter marketing to me. So it's like I've spent my whole life being programmed by TV programs and the processed food industry, and then there was one thing is that my food stayed on track, but like as Joan describes, that's literally only 20% of the picture. There was still 80% of my life that I had to reclaim. And I don't mind sharing the story of my mum, who was the sober alcoholic, who was then the dry drunk. So it's like there's so much more of life to be embraced, and I've learned so much compassion. I made great friends in the group, and it's just one of the most special places that I've ever experienced in my life, and it's meant the world to me. And it gives me courage then to be able to parent and feed clean food in a world where it feels like I'm the only person doing so. And that to me is a huge gift that I can't be thankful enough to Joan and to everybody in the art for. Like that's really special to me. Very special. Yeah.
100%.
And to know, just there's so many little practical things, like, do you know, like we all know we're supposed to go for a walk or like just self-care things and get a good night's sleep and things like that. Well, when you're listening to other people who are like, oh, that person's going out for a walk, and then it's just self-perpetuating in that you just bring all these habits that were always there or that you always tried to do. And I know about this thing, but I never do it. But then you just start doing them because you're part of this positive group that's sort of bringing these habits, these self-care habits that make all the difference between you being in your reptilian brain where you're in fight or flight and you're going to buy the I love how you describe it, Rich, as frankenfoods. It brings you back into that frontal lobe where you can make those conscious choices because you're speaking to people who are compassionate and kind, and how we're supposed to be in the tribe, like thinking for the good of each other. And Joan's a very special person who really, really cares about everybody that she works with and things, and that's shared amongst the group. Like, yeah, so it's very special. Yeah, it's nothing. It's hard to describe. Yeah,
I think that's the thing as well. I love and you always say that, Kiera, is the tribe. I love that thing because we've all come to this way of eating or this journey because of something that we've struggled with in our life, whether that's be physical, mental, etc. And when you come to these events, you get that community, you get those stories. And like we said last week, there's people that you meet at these events, because you were at the Ancestral Festival as well a few weeks ago. And you meet these random people who have phenomenal stories. And you don't get to get that face-to-face contact without these events. And that's where it's great that Joan is going to be there, and Kiera and Rich, where we all have different stories. We've all, like Joan has her own story as to why she became obsessed with wanting to help as many people as possible.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful. I think it's absolutely amazing. And that's why we're doing these events, to just give people the opportunity to be there, to be in the company of others, even just to listen. If you don't want to have that conversation, even just to be in the company and know you're not alone, I think that's huge.
Yeah, 100%. I had a consult today with a client of mine who has been living this way for quite some time. And this is how powerful the external forces are, if you like. She'd lost considerable amount of weight, was the healthiest and fittest she's ever been, works a very, very hard job, and then some evenings goes cycling for 50 miles. So somebody who doesn't struggle with anything in life, and always really positive and full of energy. The fog has been lifted, which is a common thing, isn't it? When we gravitate into this journey, we see this. The fog that we didn't even know was there is lifted, and we can see clearly mental clarity, perfect cognition. And she said, look, I've booked a consult because the doctor is worried about my cholesterol. And she said, look, I've studied, I know the cholesterol is essential for life. You know, she almost repeated back the things that I say time and time again. It's essential for cell formation, cell communication, nutrient absorption, nutrient transportation, the production of hormones, and it's essential for healing. We can't live without cholesterol. The brain is made of cholesterol, the myelin sheath that sends the signals through the body made of cholesterol. So it is quite literally essential for life. Yet, and she knows it, and she said, I know that cholesterol is essential, but the doctor is having a fit because my cholesterol is through the roof. Low triglycerides, high HDL, high LDL, and her triglyceride to HDL ratio, I think, was around 0.6, which is fantastic. And the call was basically just to use me as a soundboard to say, I think you're right. I don't think it's anything to worry about. And we talked about it. And how can everything in your life be working the way that it should? How can you feel the best you've ever felt, but one marker is out? So you change your whole way of eating just to suit one marker when everything else is falling into place. What if that one marker that we believe to be detrimental is in fact beneficial? And that's what that person needed. So coming back to this whole tribe mentality and surrounding yourself with like-minded positive people, it's essential. There's very few, I have very few people around me who live the lifestyle and understand what we do. When I go to these events, everyone is on the same level. and you're talking to these people who just get it. And you come away absolutely buzzing from these events, and you feel so energized and you feel so confident, and everything is just powering you forward because you know that you're on the right journey. Then you go home, and then the doubt starts to creep back in because you're around these negative people. You're around the black holes, which seem to suck this life out of you. What about this? So the doctor says this, the media says this. So events such as this, and Joan, the services that you offer, these things I believe are an integral part of this family, if you like, or the tribe, as Kiera says. This is all part of the journey. And for me, I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't met people such as yourself, like-minded people who have kept me in check, because I've had my doubts. I've had many doubts over the years in regards to different aspects. But listen to my body, and I always come back to this way of eating because this is where I feel the best.
It never changes. Yeah. I'm 73 years old. I just had a check-in chat this morning about somebody saying, well, I don't think I'll be able to do this in my 90s. And I said, wait, time out. If you do all, like Kiera says, like food's 20% of it. The other 80% is, as Kiera said, getting self-care skills. Now, here in the U.S., we are subjected to unregulated capitalism, and the advertisers can manipulate us in any way they like. And they do get us to spend money by pushing down our self-esteem. Oh, you're in pain. Buy this. It'll help. No, it won't. So there's a whole nother 80% of self-care skills, relationship management skills, thought control skills, emotional controls. You were talking about being able to control. We have control over how much dopamine, serotonin, opioids, and cannabinoids, breath work, visualizations, just getting into community. When we open that screen and we're in our community, the ARC, we get a big oxytocin release. So you can be the chemical master of your body, but if you don't have those skills, you're vulnerable to having the advertisers, the marketers, the corporations be the master of your body chemistry through triggering, the manipulation of cueing. So yes, when you come to these events, is exactly what Rich is saying, and you're around real, live, physical people who have your truth, who share your truth. When I eat this stuff, I don't care what it says on the label, I feel bad. And when I don't, I feel great. It's so reinforcing. There's a part of the brain that nobody talks about, and it is the mirror neurons. The mirror neurons are cells in the brain that just watch what other people do. They copy, they load that information as instructions into the brain cells around the mirror neurons. So when you're in a room full of people who are practicing this beautiful way of life, your mirror neurons are packing in that instruction. This is what we want to do. If you're in a room full of people who are eating processed foods, your mirror neurons are going to be packing that in. So people ask me, what is the one tip? Joan, give me the one magic tip. This is what I say. Look at the 5 people you see the most in your life.
Absolutely.
That you will be doing what they're doing. They will determine your behavior. And it's why we broadcast 15 hours a day. And it's why I'm going to travel from Seattle to Edinburgh to be at this conference. I love being around people who get this. It just makes my life so much easier because I'm not entertaining thoughts about copying people who are sick. When you look at the US numbers, 93% of Americans are sick. 1.7 million Americans will die from diet-related diseases every year.
I don't think we're too far behind you.
No, I think the UK is very similar. But 1.7 million people, US, these are US citizens, US residents. That's 5 times the worst year of COVID.
Wow.
There you see the complicity of the media. Screaming headlines about COVID every morning for 2 years. But there are no screaming headlines about diet-related diseases. There's no screaming headlines about processed foods. Screaming headlines about the 100,000 people who will die from drug overdoses in the US. So 17 times that number will die from diet-related diseases. But where are the screaming headlines? They're not on processed foods.
Yeah, 100%. Heather, anything to jump in with that? And I'll share the screen now when you're explaining to our fantastic viewers about the benefits that come into the event. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, I love that. I always do that. Yeah, no. Yeah, but no.
Nope.
It's one of those things, like last year, as I said again a few weeks ago at the Ancestral Health Festival, it's just community, and it's such a lovely feeling. And every time you go to these events and afterwards, people connect with you and say thank you, I had such an amazing time, and people make friendships that they still have like a year later, etc. And you realize you're not alone. And that's my the beginning of the event is, the website is Inspire, Reassure, and Educate. So the inspiration is the likes of Kiera, who's going to be speaking about her story, that so many people will be able to have aha moments with. The reassurance is Joan speaking about the science backed and the research backed, along with Dr. Erin Bellamy, and others. And then the education is the likes of yourself, Richard, and Hannah Sutter, who are going to speak on education you on all the mistakes people make. And there are many, and we don't want people to go down that route of going years and years and years of making the same mistakes over and over. And it's just, again, it's going to be 2 days of just coming together, getting to know each other, and being able to sit with people that you admire so much and get to have these conversations. They're not going to be hidden away from you. You will get to speak to all of them that are going to be there at the event. Yes, also we've done, the website designer has very kindly opened up single day tickets. So if people can't make one day and they'd like to make the other day, we have opened them up that you can actually buy a single ticket if you wish, just giving people that opportunity. So if they know they can definitely make, let's say, a Saturday, and they're very keen to make that day, then they can go ahead and book on there and not just have to buy the 2-day ticket. I'm trying to make it basically as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. That's why I've chosen the outskirts of Edinburgh, so it's not an LEZ area. It's close to the planes, the airport, the trains, the tram that goes direct from the city centre into, bypassing the venue. Kiera, you could give a bit more in the logistics, how easy it is and how accessible it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's super easy because the tram stop is right outside, and that tram takes you straight to the airport. You couldn't be any closer. So it's you could jump on a plane and jump on the tram and you're there. It's that straightforward. Yeah.
And you were saying like the train is like 4 hours from London if you get the fast train.
Yeah. There's a super fast train up from London. I think it's about 4 hours. Yeah.
So it's just making it as easy as possible for people to get to the venue, because we have people coming from Ireland and we have people coming from Portugal, and again other destinations. And it's the big thing for me is people always say they wish they could meet more people and just come face to face with them and just have that experience. And that's what we're trying to do with some amazing speakers that they can also have those conversations with.
Yeah, fantastic. Tickets are available, as we've just shown there. Fantastic line of speakers. And as Heather says, there are varying options in regards to day passes or the full weekend. I was just looking at the accommodation, because you've got discount also on some of this accommodation.
Yes. So Murrayfield Stadium gave us a list of venues that they have discounts with, and you can ring them individually and get discounts. Or there's also Airbnbs in the area. So there are a good few options.
Fantastic. Brilliant stuff. Well, guys, I don't know about you, but I'm
Sorry,
super excited.
A quick one. I have started a WhatsApp group because I was asked to start a WhatsApp group so people can look at potential travel and sharing the likes of Airbnbs or similar.
Fantastic. How can people get hold of that, Heather?
You basically put you opt in to the WhatsApp group. And if you opt in when you buy the ticket, you opt in for a Saturday night evening meal. If you want to join us on a Saturday night, we're hoping to go out for an evening meal on the Saturday. So you say yes for that if you want to join us. And for the WhatsApp group, if you want to join, you opt in for that.
Fantastic. Brilliant stuff. All bases covered. All bases covered.
As far as I know. There's a lot to think about.
It is. Events, I think people don't realize how difficult they are to organize and how much time and the stress and everything else. But look, it's all worth it because it brings us all together, doesn't it? And yeah, I'm super excited. I don't know about you guys, but I cannot wait. Mm-hmm. Guys, look, it's been an absolute pleasure. Has anyone else anything to add before we wrap up? Other than being super excited?
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. Guys, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time coming on. How many weeks are we away, Heather?
3.5.
Three and a half weeks.
Not fancy.
Okay. I bet you're down to the minute.
Actually, I've got Instagram, which is at Keto Brain Health, all one word. And I put a countdown on the story today, which was like, oh my gosh, it's in the 20s now. It's not in the 30s anymore.
Yeah. It'll come before we know it. But
absolutely.
Super excited. And I get to see all you guys in person.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for coming on. Been an absolute pleasure. Thanks everyone for listening.
You.
Pop your comments below. All of the links that Heather's mentioned are either in the chat or in the description below. If you need anything else, drop me a message and I will put you in contact with Heather or contact her directly through Instagram, Keto Brain Health. Guys, been an absolute pleasure. Thanks again. Take care, and I will see you all soon.
Bye-bye.